All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Katie. I have she, her pronouns, and I work at the Bonnie Lake branch of the Pierce County Library as a teen specialist. Um, Today, I'm here to introduce the Teen Volunteer League project and the career interview that we're doing today as part of the big project that we're doing in them. Teen Volunteer League is a mentorship and leadership development program for the Pierce County Library youth, ages 14 to 18. In the past, we've done this program in the branches. It's been held at all 20 of the branches, but due to the pandemic, that has shifted last year, and now it is totally virtual. The teens meet over Zoom and Discord for 10 weeks throughout the summer. This is our last week doing this. So yay, we made it. Over the course of the program, the teens are engaging in project-based creative work related to libraries, community, and reading. They receive training and support for job skills and connect on issues of importance to them and their futures. The Teen Volunteer League's big project this summer is called Career Interviews. Teen volunteer members are interviewing workers in Pierce County about what they do and how they got to be where they are. The teen volunteer members told us who they wanted to hear from, and then we, as the librarians, reached out. Today, we're interviewing Brian Brandt, who is a youth development position at 4-H. And then I'll let the teens introduce themselves. We can go ahead and take off.
Hi, my name is Sophia and I go by she, they pronouns.
Hi, my name is Ava and I go by she, her. Okay, so our first question for you is, can you give a brief explanation of 4-H?
All right, welcome. So my name is Brian Brandt. I go by he, him pronouns. 4-H, the brief explanation is 100 plus years ago, they passed legislation to help the states disseminate information into the community. And this was with farmers primarily. And so they started land grant universities and the faculty went out and the farmers didn't want to listen to them. You know, there's this big disconnect from faculty and the farmer. So some faculty started working with young people on growing corn. So the story goes that after they worked with the young people, they produced 7 times the amount of corn that the other farmers, the kids were producing. So the farmers caught on and got onto it. But that was around, over 100 years ago was the start of 4-H clubs. So 4-H clubs, the big perception is it's all horses and cows and sheep and goats and stuff like that. Our real big focus is youth development. And we just use projects that young people like to be involved in as the tool to get them involved in the program. So what else do you want to know about 4-H?
Our next question is, what does the 4-H program wish to achieve?
The 4-H program, I view it as really, it's about job training and it's about being successful in life. We'll say we're developing caring, contributing citizens. And 4-H really does that. It's very involved in, we have civic programs, but overall, if you're a young person in a 4-H club, you're learning about service, you're learning about giving to the community. A lot of young people go to the fair. I'm wearing my Pierce County Fair shirt from a couple of years ago. And they interact with the public. And I see all of that ultimately as job development of like helping you be successful. So for our 4-H program graduates, we have a higher graduation rate than in the area they're coming from in Pierce County. And they go on to secondary education or like college or a job tech school, stuff like that. So for me, that's the bigger picture. A lot of people are in it, kids are in it, I think, because they're just enjoying having fun with their dog project.
Okay, our next question is, did you participate in 4-H when you were younger? If so, what was your experience with it?
Okay, I was not in 4-H as a young person. So there are a lot of people in the program now who grew up in it. but I also know a lot of other folks who have no background in it. But I think we all shared that commonality. We were in some youth organization, and we really liked what it did for us, and so that kind of led to that career choice of, oh, it was good for us. We had good experiences. Why not get into it for a career? And I've always found young people very keep you on your toes. They're a lot of fun to work with. Don't you think you're fun to work with? Yeah. Okay. Okay, is there another question?
There is.
Dave, I think it's still your questions.
Yep, you're right. Okay, our next question is, what sparked your interest in joining 4-H? If you could give a more.
Sure. You know, I didn't know much about 4-H until I moved here from Wisconsin, and there was a volunteer opportunity, and I was looking for things to do because I think that's at the time, I really believed it was a good way for me to get into an organization or get to know and contribute. So I volunteered at a 4-H challenge course in Bonnie Lake, and it's where the Costco is right now in Bonnie Lake. It used to be there. But that was my avenue into 4-H, working with schools. I worked with Sumner and the Bonnie Lake schools and a lot of them around as a volunteer. And then I ended up working part-time for that program, and it just led from one thing to another. And here I am today.
What are the qualifications needed to join 4-H as a volunteer?
Oh, as a volunteer, you have to have that interest in serving young people. I think the volunteers who are the most successful think about the young person's development as the most important part of volunteering, as opposed to a lot of people join because they may have a dog, they love working with dogs, or they've had horses, or they love robotics. The biggest qualification I see is that to be a volunteer is that you really enjoy working with young people. You see the value in that, and how that there used to be an old model of youth development that kids were broken and we had to fix them, and that's not true with research. All young people are wonderful and great, and you just have that attitude that they're wonderful and great, and I just want to give them an be a part of them doing good stuff.
What are your favorite types of projects to work on?
So I personally do a lot of STEM activities with young people, so I enjoy that because, like I tell volunteers, you don't have to be an expert in anything to start working with young people on it. We kind of co-learn on things. So I learned a lot of better skills on like photography and even robotics going along, and we would all work on it together. So I think that as long as people are open to it, learning as you go and having fun, it all works out. So, but I do a lot of STEM. We have a very large STEM program in our county where we work with a lot of after-school programs and camps, providing training and kits.
What is your approach to collaborating with youth?
Collaborating with youth. So I really value 4-H's philosophy that youth are partners. There's a different way of looking at youth development, from you like control youth to youth do it all by themselves or adult do it all. 4-H works in that middle ground where it's a youth adult partnership, which I think is very valuable because that's real life. It's not it's how, if you want to do a project, you're going to be working with mixed ages, or it's just I don't know. I just like that approach because there's things that young people give to adults who work with them in insight, and there are things that adults give to youth and can support as a mentor. So it's a better concept, I believe, and I've enjoyed it where I've worked with young people in projects and started them off on thing and then go like, where do you want to go with this? What do you want to do? Let's start working in together and collaborating on that. So those are really my most enjoyable times, where the young people actually step up and do that, because I think most times young people don't get that opportunity to actually co-lead something. So it's a new thing, but it's a lot of fun.
How has your work in 4-H impacted youth so far?
Impacted youth so far? I think the neat thing about the 4-H project here, just overall extension, we are there. We're here in counties to build capacity in it. So we have trained YMCA staff as an example, and then they work with the youth. So instead of me being able to work with 200 youth in a year, we trained over, I think, 120, it's about 120 a year, who then work with up to 3,000 youth. So it's a bigger impact when we can do that, like our STEM kits. If I just did STEM myself with kids, I worked with 60 kids over the course of a year on one project. But by us working with all these other ones, there's 3,000 youth a year who are getting STEM kits out in that. So I think that's one of the great gifts that Extension brings. It's also building capacity, and I write grants for the county. I've generated in the last 6 years, 7 years, like $1 million has come into Pierce County for different equipment, supplies, and programs that we're involved with. So it's all for the youth. So that's good.
And our last question is, how do you think 4-H's values apply to you when thinking about your job?
Oh, interesting. Well, 4-H has, there's different values that we have, but I think what's impacted me more personally is looking at, there's what we call the 4 essentials of youth development. And it's the same, it's very similar to other youth organizations, that youth need mastery. It's really good if you get to do something that you can get really good at. And independence, so you get challenges to do stuff on your own, but still work with a group. Mastery, independence, generosity, so you're contributing and being a part of community, and belonging, a sense of belonging. So for me personally, those 4 things have impacted me more because I think they relate just to like a career. So when you go out into the workforce, you want to have a job where you can do really well at, and you can have fun with that. You want to have, I think most people want some independence. Like, this is where we're going in the job, but you figure out how to get there. And belonging, people like that sense of community in jobs. And I've worked alone at times. It's really hard. You have to motivate yourself differently. And generosity, in jobs, they want to feel that they're doing well, good for the community. Even if you're making something, it's doing something for the community. So for me personally, that's one of the big things that I have impacted me in my career.
I have a follow-up question for you, Brian.
Sure.
If somebody's looking to get into a career in 4-H, what kind of background do they need?
4-H backgrounds, generally it's education focused. So when you see a job announcement, it'll say a degree in this or that with educational minds. We've had people who work their way in from clerical positions and then get in as an admin person in 4-H and support the program that way, and then finish their degree and then move up a bit. So I started as a volunteer, and then the job required some degree in education. And then I actually left for part of the time to go back and get a master's, because you only can be faculty in extension if you have a master's or greater. And then that was just a master's in anything educational, because there is no degree in 4-H out there. I think somebody may say they have it, and it's like very rare where, one campus has some kind of focus in 4-H. So it's just understanding those general concepts. Just like if you're a youth librarian, I'm sure you also have some background in youth development, and that's what you need. So I think for my advice to young people for looking at careers in youth development is be involved in things at this point right now. Get in school clubs, get in leadership positions. If you go to secondary education, college programs, you look at an education program, or you get involved in the Student Hall Association. You just really experiment with all those different things, because those are all free trainings in a way. I learned a lot about finance by volunteering in an education association. So I became their treasurer, and I learned from that. It wasn't job related, but now I use all those skills in my job to manage, $250,000 grant every quarter or whatever. So.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much for doing this interview with us.
Yes.
Just a closing question. What is the favorite project that you've ever done with 4-H?
Oh, favorite project. The ones that I've enjoyed the most are the obscure ones that there's no curriculum for. So I worked with a person who was a professional game maker, and we had a game making project. And the group made board games and different dice games, and they worked on the mechanics and all that stuff. It's really fun. James Stowe does that. I think he does stuff with Pierce County Libraries or one of the library systems. And yeah, and what was the fun part about it is we went to a convention and they had this game making challenge for 1 hour, and the 4-H club beat the other groups 2 years in a row. And so they had just done such a good job and figured out, more importantly, how to work together quickly and brainstorm and create a game. So it had the two things that I love most. It had creativity in it, and then it had youth development skills were actually developed. I really believe there. Those are all good job skills. You know, if you can fix something in an hour. So that was one of the really fun ones. And I've done like Rube Goldberg project and a steampunk project where they made steampunk stuff. Those are all things I didn't have a curriculum with, but I just knew the kids were interested in that. The young people were interested in that. So I said, well, let's figure it out. I'll look up some stuff, get some tools, and we'll make stuff. So those are really
Wonderful.
fun. And
Yeah,
that's not
I
traditional
bet.
4-H. So
I'm learning so much. I had no idea 4-H was so broad.
well, we have this whole other side piece where we do trainings for camps and after school on social emotional learning or like team building skills and cooperation skills. And we used to actually, I have worked with some of your past counterparts years ago with the teen librarians in the Pierce County system. So that's all part of good youth development. So that's what we want to bring out there. So again, it's that whole mission that I really love about Extension is it's about taking research that people normally put on shelves and books and figuring out how it works in the real world and bringing it to the people to utilize. So
Wonderful. Ava, Sophia, do either of you have any follow-up questions? All right. Well, thank you
how
again,
about Ava and
Brian.
Ava and Sophia? Ava and Sophia, what's advice you want to give to an adult who works with young people?
Be patient.
Okay. Ava, what you got?
I would agree with that too. Maybe just, I know you do this, but try and come from a place of wanting to understand exactly what people are feeling.
Mhm. Good, thank you. I will use that in my next volunteer training.
It's always great to get the voices of the people that you're working with in there.
Mhm.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.